But, we've been through every single other part of this race. We may as well talk about a little bit of the calamity that was stage one. Ultimately the race did start on time, but the race started on rain tires with the non-competitive pit cycles and different things like that. Interesting to say the least, huh, Bob?
Yeah, this is kind of what Goodyear's been prepping us for. They said we've been developing these tires for years because they want, a wet weather track, not raining, but there's enough to, if it was slicks, not be safe. It would delay the track, the start of the race. And this is what they've been waiting for, a moment like this. They didn't have the wipers on the car, so if there was a lot of spray, it wouldn't have been safe. But ultimately, you saw these guys go out there and handle these wet weather tires for the first time in a points race for the Cup Series. You saw it at North Wilkesboro last year in that qualifying heat races, but wasn't quite the same as this. And you didn't see a total change there, honestly. You saw guys kind of moving around to start the race, just looking for grip. You saw the guys like Larson and Reddick ripping the walls or trying something different. Briscoe was up there in the middle lane. It was a little chaotic. Fox didn't really cover it too well, but of course, what's new? But ultimately, like I said, what's the point of developing these tires and spending all this money if they're not going to be able to use it in an event like this? You could wait a little bit and see if the track's going to dry, but it's already 7 o'clock on the East Coast to start this race. Fox isn't in the national broadcast window. You got to get what you got to get. And I credit NASCAR for at least using what they got.
Yeah, I mean, they spend a ton of money developing the tires. You may as well use them. And ultimately, that's, I was kind of in the camp of, I think hindsight's 2020. Looking back at it, I think you could have delayed the start of this race maybe 15 minutes. Let the dryers go to work on the track, and maybe the rain tires weren't going to be necessary, but use it or lose it. I mean, at the end of the day, you developed this tire. If this it was kind of one of those things to where if they were going to put the rain tires on to start this race, they were probably never going to use them. This was kind of this was the reason they developed this tire. Ultimately, the spray worked out, and what didn't really make anybody's visibility too messed up. And ultimately, it created some really interesting racing. Like you said, I think anytime that drivers, especially with the next gen car that has so many things that are similar, anytime where the driver's skill is really highlighted, I think it really seems to benefit NASCAR as a whole. And stage one had some of that because like you said, you had so many different guys looking for different lines, looking for grip, looking for, anywhere to try and put these cars to start the race to gain an advantage. And, even with the little bit of hesitancy from some of the drivers, I thought stage one was pretty entertaining, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the tire we've been talking about. We're going to race on ovals in rain. And it's it's a little bit of an asterisk. It's missed, but it's comfortable mist there. Everyone was kind of hyping up on the broadcast in pre-race. What's this going to look like? Oh, is this going to be chaotic? And you saw why these guys are professionals. They kept it together, hit turn one with ease. Obviously, Richmond, it's going to be a little easier to spread out there, but yeah, they made it work there, Ad. So it was an interesting kind of wrinkle to a race that didn't have a ton of them until the end. It was kind of, the beginning, then the middle, very flat, and then the end, real picked up again. It was just a typical Richmond race to me.
Yeah, it's what we have come to expect of Richmond in the past few years. I mean, obviously the finish was what it was, but ultimately, strategy mattered. Not a ton of tire fall off, anything like that. I think the only reason we're talking about tires is the fact that we finally got to use the rain tires